Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be discussing Happily Ever After, finally. But before we do, I do have an announcement and hot goss, and then we'll jump into the episode. So first thing, announcement, which it's been discussed in length in the Love and Translation episode that was released on March 28th. So if you want to listen, I believe it's like the first 13 or so minutes of the episode. All of that information is there as to what is going on. So this is going to be a more compressed version of that. And again, everything is in length on the socials. Actually, did not put that on Instagram or TikTok, Twitter, but it is on Facebook currently, but I will get it on to Instagram and Twitter as well. So I am going to be in surgery in the first week of April. So with that being said, again, for those who don't know, I do have a very large gallstone in the gallbladder. So my entire gallbladder is being removed. So that's what's happening. The reason I was in hospital, all of that. So I will be in surgery to deal with that in the first week of April. Don't know exact date, doesn't matter, but I will not be, I won't be podcasting from any new shows. So it's basically starting on Sunday, so March 31st, but I will not be podcasting on anything from April 1st until April 29th. So that's that week. So anything from the date. So from Sunday, obviously with HEA, and if Love Translation is still going, I don't know. Anything from there will be starting to do on that last week of April. And all details of how the shows are going to be covered were covered in length again in the Love and Translation episode. If you want to go back and listen to it, you can, or check the socials. It will be there as to how we are covering shows while I'm away and what that looks like. But for the purposes of I will not be podcasting at all between April 1st and April 29th. There won't be anything going on. The only things that you will get, any sort of presence from me, is social media. On the first week, so April 1st, you'll get some social media presence from me with the memes and everything. And maybe 2 weeks or so after that, I'll start doing the socials again, but still no podcasting. And then also there will be a bonus episode coming your way. I believe on the 18th of April-ish from Next Take Podcast, but that is it. Otherwise, I am done. So if you want a full explanation on everything, definitely hop over to Love and Translation. Everything will be there for you. Or check the socials. It will be there as well. So there's that. We're done with that. So let's move over to hot goss. So Chelsea from Selling Sunset is filing for divorce after being married for nearly 7 years. So she's filed for divorce from her husband, Jeff Laskiny, I think it's Laskiny, on Wednesday, citing irreconcilable differences in documents obtained by People. The pair have 2 children, as we know, Maddox Ali Laskiny, who's 5, and Melia Iman, Laskiny, who is 3. So per the documents, Chelsea is filing for joint custody and spousal support from Jeff, which is interesting. And if you don't really know much of the history here, they both met each other while he was a managing partner at advertising agency Icon Media Group in 2015, and then they got married 2 years later. So very sad, very sad. I'm actually a little shocked, but that's kind of that on that. But that is it for that piece. One more piece I have for you. 90 Day Last Resort, we're getting a little bit more rumblings from it. And it definitely is coming soon. We've got new couples. We've got a new location, which we've talked about is going to probably be Arizona. So although we still don't have an official, group of people yet, we are kind of getting the rumblings, and we got the rumblings last time with the first season, so that was pretty correct. So we're kind of hearing the rumblings now. Similar situation. A fan saw them record, filming and everything. So similar situation with the first season. So among the people who have been spotted on Last Resort, we have Brandon and Julia, Sophie and Rob, which we've been hearing, Jasmine and Gino, which we've also been hearing, and Ari and Binny. I thought they were already done. What's the point? Why are we beating a dead horse here? But anyways, those are the people that we're hearing. I imagine, because we're in Love in Paradise territory now, going into April, we're probably getting Last Resort after that. So it's coming soon, y'all. Be prepared. And of course, we'll cover it. But that is it for Hot Goss. I do have one more piece for you, but I'm saving it for Seeking Sister Wife, so you'll get it then. But that's it for Hot Goss. Let's get into the reason that we are here. 90 Day Happily Ever After, Season 8, Episode 2. The Princess and the Pea Brain. So, again, just as coverage notes, so you know. First things first, Ed and Liz appear on this show. I am not covering them, so they are not going to be appearing on my podcast. And also, I have decided, just so that we can make sure people are taken care and if they don't want to listen to someone's being covered under the circumstances, I totally understand. So what I'm going to be doing going forward is in the first part of each episode that we do for HEA, I'm going to be putting Nicole and Mahmoud at the end of the first part of the recap. And I'll be putting timestamps there. So if you want to bypass them, you can and go to the second part of the episode. So that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward, because just under the circumstances of their storyline, with the weight of what's happened, post them probably filming, I do want to make sure that I am sticking to what I believe in, as well as knowing the fact that we don't have a lot of information about what's happened, because everyone's being pretty tight-lipped about it. But I also want to take into consideration that maybe some of you do not want to hear about them under those circumstances. So that is what will be going forward with the coverage of Nicole and Mahmoud. But let's get into the episode. So Jasmine and Gino. So they're going to be going to bed now. And I think Gino, but actually both of them, just place the roasted marshmallows on the floor for an animal to potentially come and eat it. I feel like, is there not a garbage can that you can throw the marshmallows into so that they're at least, in there, like on the floor? But anyway, she wants him to show her the stars tonight. And he says, I'll make her see lightning. No, he won't. So she says, let me do your feet. Now, trigger warning for this nasty, okay? Yeah. So let me do your feet. And then she starts, so gross, licking his feet. and sucking his toes. It's so fucking gross. She says that she has a foot fetish, which fine, I guess. It's just men are gross. Um, and she said it started when she saw his feet in the Jesus sandals. Okay. Sure. He says, oh God, yeah, suck them toes. And I'm seeing it in my head. It was so disgusting. But yeah, she says, ew, she says that this part tastes like cheese. Anyway, and I guess now she's going to like stick a finger in his ass. I think she stuck a finger in his ass before. I don't think this is the first time. Um, but it's the next morning now, and she's kissing Coco, and I'm just thinking, I hope you're not kissing him with Gino's foot on your breath. Ew. Ugh. Sorry for that. Um, but he brings her a coffee and he tries to kiss her, I guess, and she asks him, did you brush? Bet you have a nerve. You just stuck his feet in your mouth. He should be asking you if you've brushed. Are you kidding? Lord. Anyways, she tells us, as we kind of knew already, that she's ovulating. And he just thinks that she can get pregnant really quick because it's what she's telling us. So she starts giving him like a lesson on baby making, kind of. And she says, like, you have to have sex multiple times a day and all of that. She has like a chart here and everything. So in case he's a visual learner. And so in 6 days, they would have had to have sex like 12 times. Now, as a person currently who's actually trying to grow my family, this is incorrect information. Now, this is not based on what I've been told, so my brain, but this I've done a lot of research, talked to people. It's in my brain. You should only be having sex when ovulating every other day. And here's why. You gotta give the man a chance to regenerate the sperm. If you're just having sex constantly, then you're just shooting blanks, basically. And I've seen firsthand what happens when you use it multiple times a day. Not at the time that I was trying, but I've seen what happens. It's literally, it goes from being white to being clear. That's how you know. So maybe, you can have sex maybe a couple of times a day if you so choose, for the best. But you really should be doing it probably once every other day during ovulation. And obviously keep that same energy throughout the month because your ovulation can shift. So it's just like this 12 times, 6 days, you're going to shoot blanks. It's not going to happen. So I'm very confused as to where she got this information. But anyways, he's like, well, I'm really gonna need my blue pills. Yeah. He says, it feels like it's too much. Are you 100% sure that we should be doing this 12 times in 6 days? And she says, yes. No. Just no. Anyways, he just doesn't want it to feel forced. But here's the thing. Even if you're not doing it 12 times in 6 days, or you're doing it, multiple times in a week because that's what you need to do, it can, like I will tell you, in my experience, it has at times felt like a chore, and that's not what you want. You don't want it to feel that way. And you kind of lose the fun out of it a little bit. But, that's kind of the reality of trying to have a baby. It's, you know, sometimes it will feel forced or it will feel like a chore. But just be, you know, kind of just listen to yourself and kind of know when to say, maybe we need to take a break. Maybe we need to, just, that's all you can do. She tells him here that she's not like the most fertile person in the world. And she mentions it was hard to conceive her youngest. And that she actually had to have hormone treatment done. She had to have like injections done every day when she was pregnant with him. Which is, I can't even imagine having to do that every day. But that's the thing too. I can understand where she's coming from. And I'm going to get to Gino in a minute. But I can understand where she's coming from because that is also my reality. I'm not doing injections per se, but I do have to take hormone from ovulation to the point I get a period, or if I do successfully get pregnant at some point, I have to continue doing that. For the first and second trimester, it's trying, even having to do it when not pregnant. It's a lot on you. And it can mentally affect you. Like, it's great when you have the answer, but at the same time, it's like, okay, but now I have to continue that on. It's a lot. And I definitely understand her. And his response, though, is don't worry, you're young. You are only 36 years old. And you will get pregnant when you least expect it. No, that's the wrong answer. Here's why. Two things. Your age has nothing to do with how fertile you are. It means nothing. Yes, she's young, but she's 36. And scientifically speaking, your eggs are starting to quote unquote dwindle at this age, at the ages she's at. And yes, you can still get pregnant, but your chances lessen, right? You can't change science, unfortunately. So yes, quote unquote, yeah, you know, but it doesn't change anything. And even if, okay, I'm not at the, old age of 35 yet, but I'm in my 30s and it's been difficult. Like, I've been trying for nearly 2 years and it hasn't happened. It's been difficult. So your age means nothing. It doesn't matter if how young you are, how old you are, it means nothing. So him putting those two things together is ridiculous to me. And then for him to then say you'll get pregnant when you least expect it, that is again the last thing anyone who's trying to get pregnant wants to hear. Because, yes, it happens for some people, but when it doesn't happen for you and that's what you're being told, it's just like, shut the fuck up and listen to what I have to say. It's really difficult. And that is the last thing you want to hear. He's not what you should be saying to her. And again, like, I can't remember if he mentioned anything about naturally, quote unquote, naturally getting pregnant. But if that is something that doesn't work for her and you have to do the IVF route, I bet he's going to have a problem with that too, because that takes money. And that might be the solution for them under the circumstances, So it's, again, too, her youngest, I can't remember how old her youngest is, but she would have been like maybe late 20s, early 30s when she got pregnant with him, and she still had a problem. So it is, again, he doesn't seem to understand. I think if you look at 10 people, 10 women, right? who get pregnant. I guarantee you most of those women have some form of fertility issues. So this whole thing about, well, you're young, is so stupid to me. It's just, ugh. But yeah, I don't know. It feels dismissive too. Like you're not hearing her. It feels dismissive. Like this is a worry. This was a worry she had while pregnant. And this is a worry now that she's having that she's trying to get pregnant with you. So it feels very dismissive. Him just kind of saying, oh, well, you're young. It'll happen and all this. And again, the chances of it happening within the first year, again, happens for some, but it's your chances increase. And that's the other thing he doesn't probably know. And it's just, I can rant and I can rave about this for as long as I possibly can. And I'm not going to keep going, but one thing I'm going to say for any man who listens, who has women in their life, please do not tell her, oh, you're young. It'll happen when you least expect it. Please don't tell her that, especially when she has a legitimate infertility issue. Something like hormonal. It's probably progesterone that you probably had to take. And please do not tell her that, because your hormones do not lie. Anyways, let's continue. Anyway, they're leaving now, and he says, I'm gonna miss this place. And she says, I'm not. So let's continue. Next scene. We see Jasmine is running. She's just completed 4 miles. She looks really not sweaty for someone who just ran 4 miles. But anyways, she then calls her mom and her sister, Zulan. And, she says now that they're married, she kind of just wants to focus on her kids and getting her kids, to the States. And Zulan is wearing her shirt, and Jasmine's like, girl, that's my shirt. I actually remember seeing her wear this shirt. I don't know how I remember that, but anyways. And she's like, that's my shirt. And she's like, it looks good on me though, doesn't it? So they're telling her the kids are good, but Wanse is definitely sad because he does miss Jasmine. And she says if Gino does not keep his promise to get her kids back to the States, she is going to leave. She will leave. And she asks her mom how she's doing. And her mom says that she is in pain and it seems chronic. And she says like it is causing her to feel depressed. The issue is, because you're kind of wondering what's going on with her mom. They don't know. They've been, I guess, doing doctor's appointments a whole bit, but they have no clue what's going on with her mom. But she does have an appointment apparently, so because of this, she does need to leave. So she comes off, and when she does ask Zulan, okay, how is she really doing? And she says that, well, the test that she's going to be doing is a biopsy. And Jasmine says, well, then that kind of feels like they're going to be checking for cancer. And we'll get to that in a minute, but she does ask, okay, so how much is the test? It's about a good $800. Jesus Christ. And she's like, well, I'm assuming you guys don't have that. And she says, I'm going to ask Gino for it. Gino not got money either because he quit his fucking job. Idiot. Anyways, but Jasmine says, okay, so they're going to be checking for cancer. And she just starts really getting emotional. And she says, if something happens to her while I'm here, like, I'm never going to forgive myself. And Zulan tells her to relax. Just because it is a possibility does not mean it's a reality, right? Jasmine says that I miss you. And she feels like, this was really sad. She says, like, I feel like I'm a crappy mom and I'm a crappy daughter. And, she just kind of feels like taking a plane home, but she doesn't know what dude, she's very confused. She's just very emotional here in this moment, and I feel for her, feel really bad for her. You're not a crappy mom. You're not a crappy daughter. It's just unfortunate that life just happens the way it's supposed to happen, and it's hard. I can't imagine not being there to help and be support to her mother when she's going through this. But I pray for her mom. I pray she's going to be fine and everything will be fine. I pray that everything's going to be fine with her kids. We'll get to it in a minute. Um, yeah, I can't imagine what she's going through. But let's move on to the next scene. This is the classic scene. This is it. Oh God. So we're gonna go see an immigration lawyer, um, in order to discuss the details of her kids getting to the States. She does tell Gino, listen, if he says we need his services, then we are getting his services. And Gino's like, no, I worked too hard and I did a good job getting you here. We're gonna find out how great of a job he really did. Let's continue. He says in the moment that he has no job and they are also trying to get pregnant. Okay, I'm gonna talk about that comma in a minute. So he's basically trying to say, like, because of those things, like, I can't afford a lawyer. But okay, you not having a job, you made that choice. A dumb choice, but you made that choice. Number two, you're currently trying with sex. Sex is free. Oh, except for he needs the blue pills. That's not free. Oops. Look, I don't know how much blue pills cost, and he's getting them on Amazon. Like, I don't know how much those cost, but like, sir, okay, that's not free. Yeah, I just thought about that. I think from my perspective, I'm like, it's free. It's not free because he needs his blue pills. But again, I don't know how much you need every month, like how much supply you get, how long that lasts you for, or whatever. But let's just roughly say blue pills cost $100. I don't know. So, and the blue pills will last you for like 2 months. We'll just ballpark it. So you're trying to tell me then you can't pay $600 a year and then also pay for a lawyer? If you had a job, sir. Let's continue. So we meet Anthony. Anthony Ray, y'all. He's our lawyer. So he says, okay, let's sit down here. Let's, tell me where you're at. So we do the background. Basically, I'm not going to go through it. But Gino does mention, I did the paperwork myself, which we know. And he's like, it worked out. She's here, And Anthony, who is a queen, y'all, Anthony says, oh, so you're like a semi-expert. Okay, so great. That got some laughs. So what about traveling, Jasmine asks, because, with her kids, her mom, she wants to know, like, what about me traveling outside of the States? So Anthony says, you'll have to file some travel document. I can't remember the name that it was. And when you would do this when you adjust your status, which we know has not been done yet. So while the paperwork is pending, apparently, I think then you can travel in and out. But the bad news, I think after pending, like once it's been processed. The problem is that the issue is that's great, you can do that. The processing of this paperwork could take 8 to 12 months. So she's not doing really well with that news. But it is what it is, right? So with the kids, they're not here because she said, they were kind of messy. She wanted to make sure this was going to be a safe, calm environment for her kids. So she didn't bring them. But now, what does that look like? Once, she's ready, let's do this, right? Anthony asks, okay, well, were the kids listed on the visa application? And Gino says, no, they were not, because I thought, they wouldn't be coming now. So I just, didn't include them. Now, I did mention in, the Canadian paperwork, when you do a spousal visa, is very similar in the sense of you have to include all children that you have, whether they are inside or outside of the country for which you're trying to sponsor them into. I would imagine the same applies for the States. You have to do the same thing. For the mere purpose of this reason, that your child or children are able to come if they are outside of the States, right? That is the whole purpose, I would believe, in having this. So you would do that. Doesn't matter whether they are coming or they are not. You still have to list them. That's what I would have imagined you do. And I am not an expert. I'm only going based on my personal experience, and the professional experience that I have is very limited. And it's a very different sect of immigration. So that's what I would think you would do. This idiot figured, well, they weren't coming, so I just didn't include them. But here's where he went wrong, y'all. So he's like, Gino says to him, well, I'm not an expert, of course, but you claim that you know how to do this. So you should have been some sort of an expert, because you claimed you knew what you were doing. You said that to Jasmine in B90, in the season of B90. You're telling that on the way to the immigration office, that you knew what you were doing, but clearly you didn't. So he does ask the attorney, Anthony. He asks, so if I were to adjust her status, right, can I add her children on? His fucking face when he asks this question is like, are you fucking dumb? Now, I also thought the same thing. What? Because you're not adjusting the children's status, because they don't have a status. You're adjusting Jasmine's status, who does have a status in the States. And that is basically what Anthony says. He says you can't adjust the children's status because they don't have one. You're adjusting hers because she does have one. Because she's here. They're not. And they're not included on the application. They don't exist. In the grand scheme of things, guys, they don't exist to the American immigration government. They don't exist. So what are you talking about? He thinks he can add, oops, I forgot this, and add it to her adjustment of status. Are you dumb? That's not how this works. Oh my God. But he says, Google didn't tell you what to do. Google didn't tell you what to do. This is so fucking, that is a sassy queen if I've ever seen one. That's so amazing. And yeah, the answer is no. Google did not tell him what to do, because he didn't ask Google. He didn't ask Jeeves. He didn't ask Bing. He didn't ask anybody. He just figured, I know it all. You can even go to a lawyer and get advice. You know what I mean? Because this is a different situation than what you did with your ex-wife. You could have gone to a lawyer and gotten advice at the very least. That's free. You're not gonna get a charge for a consultation. Or even if you did, it's gonna be minimal. You could have asked for help to make sure you are filling these documents out correctly under this situation with Jasmine with 2 kids. He couldn't even do that. This guy is so fucking cheap. It's ridiculous. My goodness. Anyway, so Anthony also includes that if, even if they weren't coming right away, you would have still put their names on that visa application, so that when you were ready to bring them, all you had to do was call the immigration office and say, I would like to start the process of having my kids here, right? And it would have been a much easier process, right? And it basically, they could have been in the States within months. Within months of, I think they said 6 months, I believe. It would have been months because the process already been started, you know what I mean? Kind of in a sense. So Anthony says, like, I don't think he's really hearing it. Like he's hearing it, sorry, but it's not really sinking in, right? Um, Jasmine, he's kind of hoping that Jasmine can get Gino to retain his services so that, they can make sure everything is being done properly and they're not missing anything because he's no expert. Um, so they basically have to start from the beginning with the kids. He tells them that they would charge about $5,000 for filing fees and everything else. And that would cover them for about a year and a half or so, 12 to 14 months. However, the process does take longer. So Jasmine asks for how long. So this is in terms of the kids. Like, how long would this process take to get her kids here under the circumstances that they are not on the visa application? He says it could take a year and a half if you're lucky, but most likely 2 years. She breaks down understandably. And Gino says, so if I did include them on the petition, what would that have looked like? And that's when he tells them it would have taken 6 months to process if he did this correctly. She says, how am I going to tell them? I'm going to start crying. Oh, yeah, she says, how am I supposed to tell them that, first of all, I can't travel to them for another year. And from the point of the adjustment of status is done, which has not been done yet. And then how can I tell them it's going to be another year or so before they can move? I don't even know how you do that. Like, oh, whew. And she says this is a nightmare. She says, I knew it would take time, but not this long. She says, if I knew, I never would have come here. She feels like she's made a mistake. And she's like, I never should have left without my kids. I don't know what she does. I don't know. But that is it for Jasmine and Gino. We've talked a long time about them, but that is it for them. Let's move on to Kobe and Emily. So we're getting travel time from them. 1 hour. Everything seems fine. 4 hours, we're so good. 8 hours, whatever. 11, I think we're traveling from one flight to the next. 14 hours, I think at one point we see, Scarlett's feet up against the wall of the plane. 17 hours, 18, and then we fast forward 21 hours. We are in Africa, y'all. We're in Cameroon. So excited. Kobe's also excited. Emily is too, but she just wants a bed. She's really tired. We meet what we all meet. His friend is actually his best friend, and his name is Valerie. They've known each other for about 20 years, and they've done everything together. He says when Kobe told him about Emily to begin with, he kind of mentioned, I met this white lady when he was in China and all that. And then he's like, well, then he told me she was pregnant and shit. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to marry her. He kind of goes through that, and he was shocked when he found everything out. He's like, that was not the plan. Well, no, but if you stick your dick in somebody without protection, plans out the window. He kind of says like there's a lot of differences obviously in the cultures, and was worried about that. And he says, we've watched movies about American women, especially white American women, and they're all arrogant and bossy. Has he met Emily before, or but again, I want to say, like, do I think Emily didn't have a filter in her first season? She was a little arrogant for sure. And yes, she was bossy in the sense where she couldn't just let Kobe do something his way. Like, she has that air about her of like, my way is the best way and your way sucks. That's how she came across. I do think they've obviously done a lot better. They're happy. They got 3 kids now. They're doing good. So I do understand that. But are women just bossy because we're not submissive, or we're not, bowing down to our men? So we're just automatically considered bossy? I'm just saying. So we see like these people, these men in blue shirts who are basically going to be helping them with their luggage. And apparently this is something that they do in, I don't know if they do in all African countries, but in this case, they do it in Cameroon. Can we have that everywhere? That sounds amazing. Oh my goodness. So we are packing up. We have 2 different cars. Valerie's going to be driving the one car, and then Kobe and the family will be in the next car. So they have different cars. And all of a sudden we see this group of random men, just random ass men, young men. And shit's not looking very good. It's getting a little heated. And Valerie also, and they're all circling around Kobe. And Valerie gets involved too. And Emily's just kind of looking like, she's just like, babe. And she's holding Scarlett. She's like, babe. Like, she looks like I'm like, girl, you don't know what's happening here. Get them kids in the car and lock it. I mean, I understand. I feel like I'd probably be the same way. That is my man. I need to protect him. But this is also his country. He understands things about this country that you are not going to understand. Although I do want to talk about something else in a minute, when we get to it. You're not going to understand this. Let him deal while you sit in the car. But I do have one question. If Kobe knew this is something that, because we're going to get to it, Kobe knew that something like this could happen because he was very nonchalant about it when he explained what was going on. Why didn't you warn your wife and your parents-in-law? Like, why didn't you tell them so they knew, okay, this is what's happening. Kobe's told us we're good to go. So that they wouldn't be sitting there worrying about what the fuck is happening. So we hear Kobe kind of say, yeah, I'm going to do it. What are we doing? But we're done here. Valerie says, we're done here. We're leaving. They get into the cars, and they apparently, this is kind of when Kobe says, this is normal. They explain that, they see a quote unquote foreigner, because I'm going to say even in Jamaican culture, even my grandparents who are born, raised in Jamaica, they are not considered quote unquote locals or Jamaicans in that sense, because they're now considered foreigners or whatever, right? It's the same idea. Same thing happened even with my ex when he went back. Even though he was only gone for 2 years, he was still considered quote unquote a foreigner when he kind of came back, even though he has spent most of his life in that country. It's the same kind of idea. So even though Kobe is from Cameroon, he would kind of be probably considered a quote unquote foreigner now because he doesn't actually live in Cameroon anymore. And they see him coming off the plane. So they're like, oh, he probably has money, right? Because that's what he says. He explains that they are they see you, they think you have foreign money, whether American money, euros, whatever, and they just want some money. That's all it is. That's all they want. And he says, you may not be able to give them a whole lot, but any amount, they appreciate whatever you can give them. So that's it. That's all that was. But it definitely looked like it was kind of scary there. But when you hear the reason, I'm like, oh, okay. So they do, I think it was David does ask, but they're not going to follow us, right? And he says, no, it ends at the airport. That's it. They're not going to follow us. He explains in the end of the moment, that it's all about the gesture, which I've mentioned. That's kind of all it's about. And Lisa says, well, so much for blending in. My girl, you are a white woman in an African country that is predominantly Black people. You're not going to blend in. You're not going to blend in. Maybe you could blend in like South Africa or something. You're not going to blend in Cameroon very much. I'm just saying. Anyways. But, yeah, he says, welcome to Cameroon. So it's the next day. So where they are, I can't remember where he said they are, but they're going to be going to, I think it's Bruia. I think I'm probably saying that so wrong, but where he is from, that's where they're going to be headed to. It's going to take a few hours before they get there, and they will be stopping on the way to do some shopping, and we'll talk about the shopping in a minute. Now we really get to see Cameroon. It's nice and bright now. It's not nighttime. We actually can see Cameroon. And Emily says, or before Emily says this, Lisa does point out the shacks behind the storefronts. And he says, yeah, that's how it is. Like, you can't necessarily afford a home away from your store. So you just put a shack behind it, and that is your home. And we see that in many countries, not just in an African country. But Emily says, Cameroon reminds me of Kansas. So it's flat. And guys, she says Kansas is flat. And you know what else she was expecting, y'all? She was expecting just animals roaming the streets. She's kind of thinking it would kind of be like the Lion King giraffes and whatnot, and lions. And right. She's like, if a lion passed by me right now, I would be so happy. Woman, are you fucking kidding? Mm-hmm. Okay. Can we stop? Pride Rock was nowhere near regular civilization of where people live. You don't just have lions and shit just roaming the street. Can you imagine just roaming the streets of anywhere in Africa? Like, are you kidding? Oh my god, she's not this stupid. Like, I'm sorry, that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I was actually Akuna Matata if you see a fucking lion just roaming the streets. Are you kidding me? Have absolutely no worries for the rest of your days, which are probably limited to like minutes. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. When I hear people say, and this is the thing, I've had conversations like this with my boyfriend too, who is from South Africa. We've had conversations like this and how dumb people are when it comes to African countries. Like, the amount of things this man has told me, and I die because I'm like, are we serious here? Like, no, it's not fucking lying. I'm going to tell him this actually. He's on the kick. It's not Lion King, okay? You're not going to see Mufasa, being trampled by, what was it, gazelles or something? I can't remember what he was trampled by. You're not going to see that, okay? You're not going to see Simba. Enough. Anyway, so they are now going to get Cameroonian outfits. And he kind of says it's a sign of respect. And because they're white people too, he kind of wants to put his best foot forward. So the clothes are absolutely beautiful. They're handmade. Um, and the clothes also represent the different tribes, which we definitely heard him talk about. And that's a thing, even, I don't know, I'm assuming it's in most African countries, is the term tribes. Because I know my boyfriend has mentioned the same thing, that there are different tribes in South Africa as well. So he has talked about this before. And he mentions that the clothes also symbolize that as well. He says there's 254 different tribes. And at one point Emily picks up this little cute little baby Cameroonian outfit. It was so cute. So cute. Um and if you didn't watch the episode, there is a meme that shows it on the socials. Her dad, after he puts on his Cameroonian clothes, yells out, Wakanda. I fucking can't. Okay. Y'all, if you didn't need to know this, I'm gonna tell you. Wakanda is not a real place in Africa. And to yell fucking Wakanda in Cameroon feels really fucking disrespectful, but what do I know? Kobe laughs at it, but oh, okay. Anyway, Jesus. All he had to do was say Wakanda forever and do the motion. I think he actually did the motion. I can't remember. They do ask, this isn't offensive, right? I did love that they asked that question. This isn't offensive. I'm happy Emily said, it feels very disingenuous of me to be wearing these when I am not Cameroonian. And she also mentioned she doesn't know a lot about his culture. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a fucking expert in South Africa. I am not. But I have definitely taken in a lot of the things that my boyfriend has told me. I've done my own research to a point, because I know this is a man I'm most likely going to end up with for the rest of my life. This is the person I'm having children with or planning to have children with. I need to know not only my own culture, but I need to know his for the sake of my children, right? How does she not know even a lick of his culture? Whether he needs to educate her on his culture, if he isn't already, which I just don't see that not being a possibility, that he's not talking to her about his culture at some point. Or she needs to do her own research on Cameroonian culture. If you need to know the tribe that he's a part of, ask him. Do your own research. Do it, like, take the initiative, because again, your children are half Cameroonian. When she said that, I'm like, wait, what? I just didn't understand that, but nonetheless, I am happy that she says it just feels very disingenuous wearing these traditional clothing, because I'm not Cameroonian and I don't know much about his culture. So I did like that. Scarlett actually fell asleep while they were in the store, but don't worry, she will be quickly woken up and will cry when she is woken up. Emily does mention, like, he wears Cameroonian clothing all the time. Like, when he's home, like, he wears it all the time. She says it's sexy. Actually, he's actually his sexiest when he's naked. Amen. I agree. hmm I love my man in his clothes, or whatever. Like, he doesn't actually wear a lot of traditional clothing. But doesn't matter what he's wearing. I'd rather you just not wear them. You look better when you're not. Anyways, but that's basically it. They're on the way to see his family, and we will talk about that. I probably will, because again, like I said, I'm not going to be covering episodes, but again, that also really depends on when my surgery is. Maybe I will do like a quick little episode, not a full recap episode of shows. But it really just depends on everything. But we'll see. But we will talk about it. But that is basically it. So I think I actually only have 2. Oh, shoot, yeah. I only had 2 couples this episode. I completely forgot because we're not covering Ed. So, yeah, so what I'll do then is I will cover Nicole and Mahmoud at the end of the episode, instead this time. But going forward, it will be the other way that I mentioned. I just screwed up. But we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we will finish up the rest of the couples. Have you ever wanted to guest on a podcast like this one that you're listening to right now? Well, you can. You can definitely do this by visiting a website called Podmatch, where you can sign up and be available for all different types of podcasts that you can guest on. Or you can even search for a podcast and say, I want to guest on your podcast. I think we'd be a good match. So if you want to do this, you can go to our unique link, which is joinpodmatch.com/reality, and you can sign up and do exactly that. And you can find us and you can guest on our podcast. So again, that unique link is www.joinpodmatch.com. That's joinpodmatch.com/reality, REALITEA, and you can be a guest on our podcast. And I am back. So, Rob and Sophie. So, we see she's left, she's gone, he's leaving, and he says, even if we got problems, she should be, home working on the problems. And he believes in the sanctity of marriage. I mean, I'm not going to say whether he believes or he doesn't believe in it. And here's my take on things. I know my take might be a little different than some, but this is my take on things. They're newly married and they have chosen to live together. If you want to deal with the problems, you have to actually face the problems head on. And either that means you stay and live together in the same home and figure those things out, or you do what you guys chose to do, meet up and actually talk those problems out. You don't run away from them. Otherwise, the problems are never gonna fix themselves or whatever. And if you feel that the problems aren't gonna fix themselves, then stop beating a dead horse and end the marriage. Because the problems are never gonna fix themselves if you cannot confront them. And the thing too that I have to say is, I've said it before, I really need to know the timing of when these messages were seen, or not even so much seen, when they were sent. Were they sent while she was in the States, planning their wedding, getting married, after they were married? Or was this before? Because if this was before and we're causing a ruckus over something that happened previously that you just never saw before but you're seeing now, deal with them, yes, and say this shit can't happen again and move on. Stop harping on that, because that is also not going to fix your problems. You chose to marry this man at the end of the day, knowing that he had talked to other women. So I'm sorry, you can't have this holier than thou attitude about he's online, quote unquote, online cheating on you. You married him with that knowledge. So enough is enough. Stay in the marriage and fix your marriage, or get the fuck out and end it and get off my fucking screen. Anyway. And that, I know it sounds like I'm saying putting that on her. And here's the thing, I'll flip it around. If he did message these women while married or while she was here in the States, that's a fucking problem, and he needs to get that figured out. He does. She says, he's probably so mad. I only want to, only want to move home if I feel this marriage is going to work. It's never going to work under these circumstances, so you might as well keep living with Kay. She just feels that she is he's the exact same. She's happy that he wants to work things out, but I don't know if I do. That's a very telling statement that makes me think that she doesn't want to. And that's okay. But then just say so. Stop with this back and forth nonsense that you guys are doing. Anyway, back with Rob. We are meeting the nasty ass spiders. And he's like, well, it's just me, guys. You're still living in a single parent home. Ew. He gets her band out that he left in this really empty drawer. And he said, I guess maybe it was her drawer. And he says, how do you lose the band? You know, he's like, it feels like maybe she meant to lose the band or whatever. And he's like, if she cared, she would have kept it on or kept it safe. Maybe. But that's why I need more context with the ring. What happened? How did she think she lost the ring, but he has it? There's a story there and we didn't get it. Anyways, Sophie's now meeting with her mom in this bookstore. Sophie says that she doesn't really know why she's in this bookstore because her mom doesn't read. They got a lot of cool books, her mom says, romance. And Sophie's like, do you read? She's like, no. So why the fuck are we in a bookstore? Anyways, then Chloe says John, her boyfriend, if you don't remember, told her that he loves her. That's great. He's romantic and all of that, and, and he's sweet. Yay. But she does ask, what's going on with you and Rob? And, she's like, he is emotionally tired, I think, or whatever she said. She's like, so, what happened? And she's like, well, what do you think happened? And her mom is like, well, he was a knob, and he yelled, and he probably gaslit. And Sophie's like, yeah, okay, number one, he didn't yell. Why am I defending him? He didn't yell. Number two, he wasn't really being a knob in this moment. Number three, in terms of gaslighting, I don't know because I don't know enough. If I knew enough, then I would be able to determine if he was actually gaslighting her or not. But I don't know because I don't know enough. But the grand scheme of things is she's kind of lying about what happened. She's not being truthful. But her mom says, okay, well, now what? And she says, well, I'm going to go talk to him at the house. So you're going to do the exact same thing that y'all tried to do the night before, but the minute he doesn't say something you don't like, you dipped. Okay, great. He says, it kind of feels weird, but she can't keep running. She just ran yesterday, but anyways, Sophie says that it could work, but she needs to kind of hope that it will work out or whatever. But Claire's like, it won't. She's like, but I gotta try. It won't. Claire, shut up. Let your child figure this out for herself. She married the man. Let her figure this out on her own. She doesn't need you. I want to get into some things, but she doesn't need you to help her. She seems to have figured out life pretty much by herself. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. So this is ridiculous. Anyway, Claire says, she likes to help people and she thinks that she can change him. So she's a fix-a-hoe. And she tells her, it's like an addiction for him. And she does kind of bring up, look at what happened with me. Oh boy, we're getting some more information here. She kind of says, in terms of Brock, where we finished this, she kind of says, the addiction is kind of his need for attention, which is, yeah, but I wouldn't say that's an addiction. I would just say he's an attention whore. But I wouldn't necessarily call that an addiction, but maybe that's just me plain schematics. But in terms of her mom now, when that's brought up, Sophie says that her mom actually OD'd a few times. Sophie herself had to save her life. Wow. Talk about fucking trauma. This poor girl has been through trauma. And no wonder she is rushing into a marriage with somebody. She feels like she probably needs that stability. And when that stability isn't there, she runs. I mean, I totally understand it. But at the same time, she might still be gravitating towards what she knows, which could be a person with an addictive personality. Maybe he is addicted to porn. Who knows? Maybe whatever. But Sophie says, like, is he a porn addict? Or is he just a dick who likes to watch porn? Now, again, everyone's views on porn is different. Now, if my man had an addiction to porn, that's a whole other situation. He doesn't. But if he, under these circumstances, if you just watch porn, I don't care. Do you? That's me. But clearly Sophie is the kind of person who maybe doesn't want her man, lusting after somebody else while watching porn. But everyone consumes porn very differently. You never know. He could be consuming porn in a way where he's like, I want that to be you. We don't know. I want to do those things with you. We don't know. Or is he just, doing it for his own pleasure and wishing he was with that girl or whatever, Everyone consumes porn differently. But I don't know. I don't know. But that's it for Rob and Sophie. Now we are talking about Nicole and Mahmoud. If you want to bypass it and go to the next time on, look down in the show notes. It will be there for you. So we are still waiting for Mahmoud. And then we see him. And when she sees him, she runs to him, so excited, and she tells him, kiss me, motherfucker. Fuck. So aggressive. Jesus. And she says this to him multiple times, and you can tell he's visibly uncomfortable. I'll get to that in a minute. She tells him, you're an American now. No, he's not. He's an Egyptian man in America. You can take the Egyptian man out of Egypt, but you cannot take the Egyptian out of the man. Or better yet, you cannot take the Muslim out of the man. We'll get to, I'm going to put this all up in a neat bowl in a minute. But she just, like I said, just keeps trying to kiss him. And the producers actually ask him, does that make you uncomfortable? And he says, yeah, it does make him uncomfortable. He's like, yeah, I get I'm in the States now, and I get this is allowed, but my culture still tells me that you don't do public displays of affection. It's just, that's the reality of it. So her trying to literally beat the Muslim out of him from the moment this man lands. You should never be doing that. This is who he is. You married him, so this is it. This is your husband. So, that is that. But you're doing it the moment he lands. Give the fucking man a chance to acclimate to American living. You're not even giving him a chance. And forcing him to kiss you in this moment, you're not respecting his boundaries. Respect his fucking boundaries and get the fuck off of him. Let him adapt. It was really cringy watching her and watching his face kind of be like, stop touching me in public. Like, to stop. Like, it was so gross. Anyway, she's like, well, you're in the States now. I can do whatever. No, you can't. You still are married to a very conservative Muslim man from Egypt. That doesn't change no matter where he's located. Anyway, he tells her, close your stomach, because he can see her clothes are showing her stomach. And she's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And he's like, close your stomach. And she tells him, well, don't ruin the moment. And he's like, you started it. Technically, no. But again, I think the same idea to the whole kissing thing. I understand she's trying to do this, going to be like, this is okay. I can show my stomach. But you're still married to a conservative Muslim man from Egypt. Let him acclimate and adapt. Don't just go in full throttle with showing your stomach and showing your legs. Or maybe do one or the other. Close your stomach, show the legs, Do it slow. I'm not saying she shouldn't express herself. She should be able to do that. But I'm saying do it slowly so that he can, catch up to you. Don't just do it all at once. So anyways. Yeah, so the argument starts at this point and, she's like, there are no rules, no one cares and whatever. Anyway, she does want him to realize, certain differences here in the States, especially in LA. It's very different than in Egypt. So when they're crossing the street to get a car, she says, we need to just cross at the crosswalk because it's really busy. You can't just jaywalk anywhere you want to jaywalk. She's, telling him that, and it's fine. We do good. And she does explain, there are no crosswalks in Egypt. It's very dangerous. You kind of take your life into your own hands when you're crossing the street in Egypt. And she says, it's very different for her, obviously, because she's like, you're always told don't cross the street when there's cars. And obviously you were told don't cross the street right away. You look both ways, make sure the way is clear. You listen, make sure that there's no cars coming. This is what you're taught, to make sure you're crossing the street safely. Her parents would literally tell her, if you hear a car, don't cross the street until you don't hear a car anymore. So she says it's just a very different situation for her when she was in Egypt. So we're now on the way to go home, and she does ask him, now that they're in the car, do you have your seatbelt on? And he says no. And she's like, well, it's the law. You do need to put your seatbelt on. We can get in trouble. So he just put his seatbelt on. He says, I don't want anyone getting in trouble. But as they're driving, getting out of the parking garage and getting onto the highway, I guess, he doesn't really like her driving because he asks, do you know how to drive? And he says he misses Cairo already. And he's like, he sees, no people, only cars where they were. I think, though, when he said that, I think they were actually off the highway at that point. So he still couldn't see people. She says she was also hoping that the reunion would be a lot happier. But now she is just kind of all in her feelings a little bit about what if he doesn't like it here, but if this doesn't work out, because she does say if it doesn't work out, their marriage doesn't work out, she's not going back to Egypt. So we're now at her home, and she just can't wait for him to take in the sights of everything. And, we're now checking out the apartment, and he says, why ponchos in the bedroom? He meant pillows. There's a lot of pillows, and he says, we only have 2 in Egypt and one's enough. Then we see this naked picture woman drawing that actually she did herself. And he says, it looks weird. And she's like, well, because he doesn't like my painting. And then we also see the mannequin that's not wearing clothes at the moment. And he's like, why is she naked? And she's like, well, she's not naked. She's plastic. But there's no, she wasn't actually doing a job at that point. And he just keeps saying, it's so weird. It's so weird. And she says, well, she lived here before he did, so she stays. She gives him his gift, which was the PJs. And he says it's weird, but it's still nice. So he just say it's nice and end it. And then she's like, I'm gonna make pizza. But he says he's tired. And then she gets really upset in this moment because she's like, well, I told you to sleep on the plane. Why didn't you sleep on the plane? And I'm like, calm down. Maybe he couldn't sleep on the plane. You know, maybe he just couldn't sleep on the plane for whatever reason. Like, calm down. Jeez. Anyways, um, she's like, I just thought you'd be more excited. Um, it's just so irritating that you didn't sleep on the plane. Get over it. Anyways, um, he barely eats the pizza though, because he's just really tired. He's really tired or he didn't like it. But he barely eats the pizza. And that triggered me because as a person who can't eat cheese right now or any form of dairy, that bothered me. Anyways, um, but he's gonna shower, get ready for bed, and that is it for Nicole and Mahmoud for this episode. So, oh, we did have another. Sorry, guys, we did have another. Um, so I might actually put Nicole and Mahmoud over back to the first part. Sorry, guys, I forgot Ashley and Manuel. Totally forgot about them. Ashley and Manuel. So, we're after the meeting with mom and everything, and she says, okay, we should talk about them kids and the fact that I haven't met them. And she says it's strange that like you don't want me. It's like, I feel like you don't want me to meet them. And he says, there just wasn't an opportunity. What do you mean? She was there in the country. Maybe if y'all stopped fucking so much, you could have met the fucking kids. Like, I'm so confused. But she thinks that that's an excuse, and I kind of agree with her. She feels he doesn't want to do it. He says he's going to start preparing them to communicate with her as their second mom. And he's like, is that okay? And she's not understanding how he operates in this way or something like that. She's like, it's strange. Yeah, she says it's strange. And then he says, well, if you don't ask me, I don't tell you. And he's like, I have no reason to open my mouth. Okay. And she's like, okay, Manuel. And she's pissed at this point and she's confused. And she says, you literally told me, though, if I ask too many questions, like it's a problem. And it's just getting her frustrated. And he tells her, you know, calm down or whatever. And she's like, ah, yeah. She's like yelps or something. I can't remember exactly what sound she made, but it was in true, actually, fashion. And she says, you know, and she's like, I just see, loads and loads of deflection instead of loads and loads of something else. Um, but he's like, it's my personal life. I'll handle it. Okay. All right. She says, it looks like you are hiding something. And he says, I am trying. She said, I'm trying to be your wife. And it just kind of feels like you're not letting me. And he's just smiling. Did anyone notice? He's just smiling over there in the corner while she's talking. Anyway, she says, oh my God, I think I'm going to cry. She doesn't fucking cry. There's not a shed of a tear. Enough. I love her. She's great TV, but enough. Anyway. Yeah, but like I said, no tears. And she tells him they need um, to be transparent. He says that she is, pressuring him, you know, and he says like their personal life, his kid's personal life is, very important to him. And, you know, he doesn't just tell anybody, but she's not just anybody, she's your wife. And he says, if I, you know, want to say something, I will open my mouth. Otherwise, he won't. And she's like, oh, okay. And they get home and they're at the door and he says, give me the keys. And she hands him her entire purse. And he said, no, just give me the keys. And she's like, find them. They're in there. I need space from you. And he does like this like weird dance. He's like, okay. Like it was, if you know, you know. It's also on the motion's on Twitter, but you'll see it. It's so funny. The dance that he does, like exacerbated type dancing, was very funny. And he says, don't bother me, you know. It's so weird. Anyway, he's like, such drama, what a shame. And he tells me, go Sabe, go to your mom, she's crying. She says that, you know, clearly she needs to get in there and figure out what's going on. She's like, I'm gonna pry into his life. I'm gonna open that bitch right open. And I'm here for it. But now, that is it for this episode. Completely forgot about Ashley Manuel. But that is it for the episode. So next time on, we might have a Cameroonian wedding. Because apparently Kobe mentions to Emily, because he didn't have a traditional Cameroonian wedding to begin with, his dad doesn't actually see Emily as his wife. You see them kids? Please. Anyways, Rob and Sophie talk, and he has like this list of do's and don'ts or something in order to fix the relationship. Really weird. We see a witch is going to kind of deal with any blockages that Manuel might be dealing with. That will be interesting. Mahmoud apparently stares at a Muslim woman very long, and that kind of sets her off. And Gino says he will not be paying for the lawyer because he doesn't have the money. Unbelievable. But anyways, that is it for this episode. Again, as a reminder, we won't be covering HEA for the next month. Most things that happen in the episode will not be covered, but maybe I will talk about certain things maybe I'll talk about certain things that happen when I am back, depending on what it is. But that is it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Nicole, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information It is overwhelming. We do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.